Good evening, friends. This is Peter Cola with Spiritual Therapies with Peter and Anna Cola. Anna is not with us today, but maybe the next time, we'll see. Anyways, I am with you again to talk about the revelations of the matrix around us, part 2. Anyway, so I wanted to go into that a little bit and delve a little bit more into the aspects of the revelations around us. And how does that have anything to do with healthcare? As you know, if anybody's watched my videos or has seen me before, and I've been on Nicholas Van Yemen, I've been on Charlie Ward, I've been on David Nino Rodriguez, a good friend of mine, and others as well, Prime Minister. And I've done quite a few shows on my spiritual therapy with Peter and Anna Cola. I am a practicing medical professional, 35 years, thousands of patients treated, supervised, departments of home health and clinics, outpatient clinics, and various treatment facilities, everything from pediatrics to geriatrics, and many things in between. Around 2008, I put God back into the treatment scenario of my office, and I started seeing miracles occurring. And I started writing them down. I wrote them down in the form of blogs because God had specifically told me to write, so I write. And then you can read about those in paulorpeter.com. And after a while, after about 10 years, I summoned all the different, or collected, I'm sorry, sometimes my Dutch words pop in, the collection of these experiences, and I wrote them in a book called Heal Yourself, for God's Sake, available on Amazon. You can read about these, putting God back into the treatment scenario for various ailments and how it allowed people then to grasp healing that is basically promised to all of us without the need to having to go and go through the normal processes that we are told today. We have all the different hoops that you have to jump through in order to heal from something that God seems to promise that you don't have to do anything except look to Him for these answers. Then later on, around the time that the comorbid took place, I started also asking God, how does it work? And so He answered me, and He answers in the signs and wonders, etc. And I started writing those things down. How it works on an elemental basis in the quantum level. So if you can understand with simple blocks and circles and things like that, then you can understand in the heavens how these things work. And that's what that book talks about. So without further ado, both books are available on Amazon, and since we do not monetize this channel, any support we get for ongoing treatments for people, I get people call me all the time that want sometimes I have to charge them if they want to take up quite a bit of my time. I still treat therapeutically, so if I'm going to do a Zoom, that is possible. People call and ask, well, what about this or what about that? And then take them through a therapeutic process. But in many cases, I have to do that for free because, insurance won't pay for it. And a lot of people just don't have the money these days. So that's the way it is. So we're going to take this a little further with what we talked about, the revelations of the matrix around us, especially in the light of this previous Matrix movie coming out. And yes, there is a matrix around us, a matrix of many constructs. The belief in miracles, we are seeing them more and more today than ever, exponentially today. And for those who don't understand what an exponential curve is, it is a curve that goes along flat until there's such a precipitator, and then it starts doubling. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 4 times 4 is 16, times 16 times 16, and it goes up dramatically. And that is what we are seeing today in many different aspects of our society, but especially in the area of revelations. Many of these problems that we are seeing today And we'll just delve into one single one. Let's just take child trafficking, for example. Well, it's been around for thousands of years, kind of hidden underneath the surface. And but then in 2016, our illustrious president, Donald Trump, the greatest president that I have ever even heard of in my lifetime, and I'm old, I heard him say on his inaugural speech that he's going to make it the purpose of this presidency to end child trafficking. I thought, that's a strange thing to say. What is he talking about? I mean, yeah, you hear about maybe a young prostitute is maybe underage or this and that occasionally. That somebody finds out that that kind of stuff is taking place, and maybe there is some kind of slavery white slavery or whatever, or black slavery, in taking place around the world. But to end it, as to being his main goal, like it's the most important thing in his presidency. I had no idea about the extent of child trafficking was taking place and how it was so connected to the satanic church, and that the satanic ritualistic church was so prevalent in our society, to even have their own currencies, to have their own drugs that they remove from tortured children, and that they use for, and then finding out that this information is right there where you can find it. All you have to do is look it up, and you can find out, yes, that when these various compounds were not only discovered, but when they were patented, and how they're produced and where you can buy them. And it's like, are you kidding me? This stuff started to reveal itself. And the closer we came to today, the more these revelations have become exponential, meaning that they're all over. The people that until now, the involvement with the Masons and all of the different these secret societies, and how they have to use Luciferian type actions in order to move up in levels, and there's secret handshake clubs, and how it has to be kept secret, and they cannot even tell amongst themselves, except for the very, the big bosses of what their plans are, because if they even speak of them is death. And there's more and more of these revelations that are taking place today. Are we in the time of revelations as spoken of by John in the book, in the Holy Book, in the Bible? Well, what is the word revelations? What exactly does it mean? Revelations is really a revealing of truths, hidden truths. If it's true that there are literally maybe even millions of children that have been taken a year, and they are tortured and killed or raped or used in these various things, horrific things, can you imagine the just the size of the entity that not only could perpetrate such a thing, to take a child from a mother or family, but do it in a secret so that they don't know it's happening, and then keep it secret from society? That means they have to have law enforcement that backs them. They have to have judges. They have to have the medical system that has to be behind them. They have to have the media that keeps this stuff secret, no matter what people reveal. When they reveal something, if they find out, it's squashed, it's never reported. They have to have the school systems. They have to have every venue of society has to be somehow, they have to have key people in key places so that they can make a call and say, we don't want to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that one. Or we're going to talk about this one. See, but then you go to find out that every major company, every major Fortune 500 company is owned by the same small group of parent companies, BlackRock and Vanguard. And then actually Vanguard owns the majority of that BlackRock, and it's actually Vanguard that you don't even know who their owners are. Those people are secrets. Nobody knows who they are, and they don't answer to anybody, nor do they have to report their books to anybody. But they own literally everything, and at least controlling interest, and have their people in strategic places running it. So this is a time of revelations. Now, the fact that we are seeing this are miracles themselves. Revelations are revealings of truths, and all truth comes from God. So these revelations are miracles that God is allowing us to see so we can say, hey, what's going on? With God, all significant acts, events, etc., follow a certain order. They're prophesied, regardless of the cultures around the world. You know, there's many cultures that talk about end times. It's not just the Bible. It's not just the prophecy of John or even the apocalypse of Peter. Oh, by the way, apocalypse means apocalypto, which means illumination. It means there's a light shined on a situation. That's what apocalypse means. So what does that have to do with healthcare? I'll get to that because I am a healthcare provider. Okay. With all significant acts, events that are from God, they are prophesied. And like I said, in many cultures, whether you go from the Aborigine culture or the Hopi Indian cultures around here, or Hindu cultures of Mesopotamia, there's all these different talks, Mayans, about end times, and it starts with prophecies. Okay. And these prophecies are written down or repeated by people over and over again. They're read and they're spoken by others through time. And then there's, how do we know they're a prophecy from God? Because they're confirmed. A very good friend of mine once said to me, you can tell if you're getting a prophecy or a spoken word from God because it will be confirmed. So if you hear something, which happened to me, actually how I started writing, I was told by God to write. I go, write what? I'm not a writer. I was a medical person, scientific person. I didn't, as a matter of fact, I avoided English and writing like the pest when I went through school. And God just basically said to me in the spoken word, I want you to write. Wouldn't tell me what to write, just told me to write. Okay. I guess he'll let me know when it was time. Mm-hmm. And then that was confirmed the next day. I had more than a dozen people come up to me and say various things like, I think you should write, or I think you should write, or I think you should. It's like, my God, stop it. But after a while, it was like, boom, 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 all at the same time. That's how God works. Prophecies are repeated, written down, read, spoken by others, and confirmed. Then comes the signs and wonders. So that's for the people who don't believe their ears, but need to believe their eyes. Signs and wonders start occurring. Before Jesus was born, there was a number of signs that showed that he was about to come, the Star of David, all the different things. That happens with Moses, with Noah. Signs and wonders start occurring. And that's how the people know, wait a minute, we heard about this. There's signs going on. Maybe we should start thinking about it. That's what they're there for, signs and wonders. That at that moment, people are left to choose. When they start seeing the signs and wonders, there comes this point is we better get right here. We don't want this to affect us, so we better get it right. And that choice can happen of choosing God or following man, God, the spiritual, or the ground, the physical. We can make those choices. Then the event happens. Birth of Christ, paying his price for his death, end times things, Noah, flood, different things. How about even a president who shouldn't have even been elected because everything was stacked against him, but yet was elected anyway. And it was prophesied in advance. Yes, it was. Yeah, King Clement, a number of other prophets. The event occurs. People make their choices for God, or even sometimes to say, no, I'm not doing it. I'd rather go their ground way, their earth way, the grave. That can happen before the event. That can happen during the event. Oh God, please help me. And it can happen after the event where they see the event and they go, oh, okay, now I understand. Hey, it's part of, everybody has a choice, free will. Everybody gets a choice, everybody. And then there's the result. There's a result, the judgment, the forgiveness, the restitution, the golden age, the things that happen because of the prophecy, where it brings people to. So that's the way it works. Prophecy, validation, confirmation, signs and wonders, choices, events, and results. And just like in real life, there are very small, limited physical moments in time. Very like I don't preach, like I teach in my book. Heal yourself, for God's sake. Very small physical, bigger experiential, and infinite, almost infinite spiritual. Okay. Like the spiritual resides in the atom, very small physical particles in the strings inside the protons. Experiential, they're going in certain directions, they're spinning certain ways, and they're bound to time with the rules and laws of time, okay, and the events that happen to them. And then there's the spirit, that is the space in between. And they have just now discovered, funny enough, that there is an ether. Scientists have discovered that is not empty space in between the atoms, but it is actually filled with an energy that is infinitely greater than the total visible energy that we see in the universe. It's just that people don't, sounds like God to me. Maybe they're finally getting it. Yeah, I was a scientist too. I used to be the kind of person, show me state, you know. Okay, so just like in the real life, very small, limited physical moments in time, larger experiential and infinite spiritual, godly, at which time people are brought to then experience these events. And those who are seeking God in spiritual, seeking you so find him. That's what I try to teach people. When you are hurt, when you are damaged, when you've had damage occur to you, when you are afflicted, reach out to God and ask. You have not because you ask that, so ask and watch what happens. Not only will he tell you what happened to you, he'll explain to you very quickly through signs and wonders and different things what's the easiest and most effective way to turn it around. Now, wait, so that's the way it works in God's world, in the real world. And so how does it work in the dark side? With witchcraft, black magic, curses, the dark side, the dark side. That guy. How does it work? Exactly. It works exactly the same. A curse needs to be repeated, reinforced There's signs in the form of images, symbols are tied to it. They're tied to these curses for the hope of the resulting major event that is wanted by the people placing the curses, bringing the cursed children, the ones who are cursed by these bad people, the children of God, in a direction or destination of their desire, like a sacrificial table or a cage in some place. So the curse is the initial plan placed upon a delivery system. Okay. It has to be placed on some kind of system to deliver. It can't just be thrown out into space. Remember, the devil cannot create, only steal that which is God created for us and use it for his nefarious acts. He has his minions perform these curses because he can't even do it himself. So he whispers in their ears and tells them what to do with promises and, all kinds of benefits that he gives them if they do what he wants. Longevity, vampire-like powers, whatever. Pride, or the fame and fortune of the rich and powerful. He's not physical, so he cannot perform in this realm, because if he could, he would have done it long ago. So the curse has to be done, and it has to be attached to something. Okay. They talk about it in witchcraft. You got to get some hair from the person you want to curse. So you have to grab something that is theirs, personal. It's needed. You got to have physical. They have to have something physical to bond their curse to. They can't just do it out in space. It has to be connected to something. That's why they need something. My wife Anna was cursed when she was early in her life before I met her, and it nearly killed her. But God opened the eyes of other people, and then she saw the curse and was able to eliminate it from her life. Otherwise, it would have killed her. Voodoo. It's real. It really is real. But if you don't know it, you just sit there and take it like being bullied by some invisible bully that's coming and beating on you, and you don't even know what's happening to you. You just, oh my God, doctor, tell me what I've got wrong with me. I feel this pain suddenly in my back, and I don't know why. And it's got some curse that is taking you and doing this to you, and you don't realize that it's primarily spiritual. Okay, then the curse needs to be repeated. That's put out there, repeated over and over again. The media is good at this. The educational system is also good at this, to tell a vision, which tells us a vision of this world. Order, there's an order to it. Because the order is, they're dealing with things that are created by God. So they have to follow the rules, the order of God. Same order as in the prophecies. So it has to be repeated. That's why the witches repeat those curses. That's why they do that. That's why they put it out there and put it in the names of things, or even if this is a curse, like calling yourself a diabetic instead of being afflicted with diabetes. You basically curse yourself with your mouth. So we have to be careful in this time when we are talking about these events around us, that we are not inadvertently becoming mouthpieces for the dark side as we repeat what their plan is. Oh my God, the mandates are coming and everybody's going to have to get that. And when they do get that, they're going to be dead. Well, that's the curse. And if we repeat that, we are basically putting that out there with our energies. What? I didn't say anything. No. But now if I start talking all these curses, I'm putting this energy into the universe. interesting thing, sound never completely goes away. I learned this when I was in school back 30 years ago almost, that amplitude, it goes down, but it goes down in time, in strength, but never completely disappears. So when you send out a sound wave, those sound waves go out, and especially when they hit solid objects, they bounce around inside those solid objects, and they just keep going and keep going and keep going, softer and softer, but still good. Like the bong. Hey, you listen to that thing? Try to hear the end of one of those things. It's amazing because it never stops. The vibration just gets softer and softer. That's why they're repeated. They have to be repeated. Okay, reinforced, but that's not the same as reinforcement, because that's next. They're reinforced by symbols, hidden images, and subliminal sounds and images. That's how the dark side reinforced. That's why they put them into symbols, these curses, and then put the symbols everywhere so people can see them without even knowing they're looking at them. Fly over a plane and look down and see some castle that is designed in the form of a curse, image, symbol, tied to a particular curse. That's why they do it. They're not doing it out of some kind of reverence so that they can lift up this image to their God. No, they're doing it to facilitate the curse that they want to perpetrate on people. That's why they're doing it, because they were told to, and they need to do it. It's part of the stages. Then they need images to go along with that for the people who just don't hear but have to see the images, the fault, but they can't create them, because that would be like creating these curses out of thin air. No, they have to. So that's why they set up these false flags, movies, deflections, false accusations. They wanted our illustrious Donald Trump to be a bigot. So they started calling him that. And they repeated and repeated and repeated. Everybody's like, oh yeah, he's a bigot. He's one of the greatest non-racial people I've ever heard of. You hear him talk. So kind to everybody. Oh, he's a liar. I confronted my friend one time, my college friend. He said, he's a liar. He lies about everything. All right, tell me one lie he had. Oh, he lies about everything. Well, give me one lie. Give me one lie that you can quote me, that you can say he lied here. I don't know. Because he can't. But that's how it works. That's that false flags. They want that, so they portray this image of apocalypse in these movies, of zombies and of different things happening, and then they hope that it's going to be fulfilled. And what's the next stage after that? Well, in our prophecy one up there, after the signs and wonders, comes the choices. We have a choice to see this and then to make a choice. Is this God? Do I want to go follow God, or do I want to be a victim of this problem? They don't want us doing that. So they take away our ability to choose. That's their next step. They don't want you to talk, to express your opinion. They don't want you coming together to discuss this. They want to dumb down every medication. Medical now, they were in the medical part. I got it from one of my best colleagues that all the psychotropic drugs, the ones that affect your psyche, like pain medications, sleeping aids, different things like that, all have the same effect that has nothing to do with what they want, which is like, well, let's say pain relief. It has a dumbing down effect, especially the modern ones, the more recent ones. And people feel like when they take these medications that they're in some kind of like cave, or they are in like their head is underwater, because it dumbs down their ability to get in touch with the spirit. These things are doing the same thing. I have had patients who show that have, some of them were forced to take it because they would, elderly patient goes to the hospital won't even see them without doing this. So it makes them have it, even if they didn't want to have it. And then after the second and third babushka, shot thing, they end up getting, you talk to them and it's like you're talking to somebody like, especially if you talk about God, people who were extremely spiritual used to talk about God all the time before. You talk about now, they're like, what? Well, what are you going to do for Christmas? Are you going to do anything that, honors Jesus? Huh? 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 It's like their whole spiritual, where they were here before, has been pushed underneath a blanket. That's what they want to take away. Take away your ability to choose God and then get the results, which is death, enslavement, or submission, whatever happens to be the ultimate goal of this curse. Curse. Okay, here we go. It's the same with prophecy, validation, confirmation, signs and wonders, choices, events, and results. Is curse is repeated, reinforced, images, no choice, and death results. The other day, my wife said to me, we were talking about, and we were watching our 107, David Nino Rodriguez, and some of our favorite truthers. And one of the big questions was, why is it taking so long? And my wife asked me, she said, and then we heard that recently they had that, what do they call it? The eclipse in Antarctica. And a whole bunch of these hierarchy people, these world leaders, and a bunch of business leaders all went down there. And what I was told is that they grabbed them. And they used it as a ploy to snag these people. Now, a lot of these, if you believe what is told, that they are part of this Masonic thing and they are involved in these satanic rituals, and they perpetrate a lot of these curses that have come upon our society today. They were let go, and they were instructed. They would let them go and not kill them immediately if they would undo the curses that they did. Now, why is it taking so long? Well, one thing, if they are undoing the curses, that would also allow then them to be revealed. A lot of the revelations would occur. Now, that doesn't mean that God's not in command, that he didn't reveal this stuff, because he did, certainly did. It's a miracle. But like prophecy, if the prophet is killed, will the prophecy continue? Yeah. If a prophet was to say, come along, and it happened many times in the Bible, the prophets would come along and say, this is going to happen. Daniel, Elijah, Ezekiel, different people like that, or not Elijah, but Ezekiel and Jeremiah, they come along, they made prophecies, especially about the end times, long after, and about Jesus being born. And then they died, or they were killed. And the prophecy still occurred. So if the people are killed that put the curses in, is it possible that their curse could still be fulfilled? Of course, because they put the curse out there, they assign it to physical things, a virus or other means, a particular show or a particular food or GMO, whatever. And they put the curse on it with medicines, cancer, chemotherapies, and they put it on there in order to facilitate a certain thing. So if you kill the person who does the curse, will the curse continue? Well, it'll be successful or not, depending on how God's warriors fight against it. But if the person, if you could get the agent to go in and turn the curse back off, of course they can do it. Yes, they can, if they're willing. Because just like the prophets, okay, does that ever happen in the Bible? Well, yeah, many times. The prophet would come along and say, "This is going to happen," and tell the king, tell the Nineveh, with Jonah, that this is going to happen. And then they have an opportunity to turn it around. Say, whoa, wait a minute now. And they solicit God. They ask God, please. And they ask the prophet, please, God, ask the prophet, ask God for us if he will pull away the curse. And if the prophet sees that they truly are repentant, and he goes and prays to God, and the curse is removed. It happens many times in the Old Testament, a lot. And so if it's possible in the physical, in the real world, then it's in the realm of light and love and goodness, then it's possible in the darkness. So, and we are in this time of revelation, okay? So that is prior to these events that are taking place, that are taking place. But in the book of Revelations, there's a whole bunch of events that take place, whole bunch of them. And we've seen quite a few of them take place, and there are more to come. And everywhere along the line, people are brought to a choice. Do they see that event as proof that God is in control, which is what most of the people watching this show are, and say, thank you, God, you're coming. It's the sign of that you are coming back, that the next millennia of the golden age is about to come, whatever that looks like. And thank you, Or there are people who they see it as, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Earthquakes. And they have to suffer the consequences of taking this stuff because they think it's the only solution. It has to be the solution, but they say so. They tell me it's. So that is what they're choosing to do. So, like prophecy, if the prophet is killed, will the prophecy continue? Of course it will. We are right now in the dumbed down place in health and everywhere. It is no more clear than today about all of this different stuff that is in our foods, in our educational system, on TV, even our phones with the 5 and this. They're making it very clear. They're not even hiding the fact that it suppresses our ability to get in touch with this, and it has a negative effect on our resistance. Basically means we're more susceptible. What did we teach in earlier programs? Our vibration is raised by our truths and seeking God. And when we are injured or we start doing negative things in our life, we are suppressed. It's down here where these elemental curses lie. And when you are swimming in that low area around the ground, that is where you are more susceptible. I've treated hundreds of patients with the comorbid, and I knew I wasn't going to get it. I just know it. Why? For the same reason St. Francis knew that he wasn't going to get leprosy when he hugged the leper. Because those curses have no effect on you when you are a warrior or an instrument of faith for God. Some people don't want to choose, and some people don't want to change, are afraid of change. That's what my wife said. She comes from Poland, and she was raised when Russia was still pretty much in charge of Poland, and she saw the wall go down. And then in the resulting, there was people that were suddenly given freedom who had not seen it for generations. And there were people that rebelled against that because they had always been told what to do, how to do it, and why and what, and everywhere. And for some people, it made them depressed. As a matter of fact, they wanted to go back to that more totalitarian system because they couldn't handle the choice, the change. And there will be people that see this stuff, even hear about the fact that this is, dangerous, whatever, and still choose. So why is it taking so long? Maybe it's taking so long so everybody can choose. Maybe it's taken so long because they've already cut off the head of the snake, like they said. But there is still the minions who are choosing whether they want to follow the decree or the curse that has been put out, that they were witness to, and follow along with it or not. You can't arrest somebody if they don't do the crime. And you can't do pre-crime. This is not the Minority Report, Tom Cruise. It's not, they have to perpetuate the situation. But when they did these curses, even 50, 100 years ago, they set these curses in me. They had a plan, Agenda 21, Agenda 22, all the 33, whatever agenda. They had these agendas. They're talking about that 15, 20 years ago. And their plans, the people even that put the curses in place are long gone. But they have different stages along the way with people that are minions working at these positions. So when this happens, you do this. When this happens, you do that. And they're going along normal, like some MK Ultra poor guy. And then suddenly, beep, and they have to do what they were told to do. Now, does that mean they're stuck because they were MK Ultra? No, they can turn to God and they can clear that crap out of their life, but it takes work. Trust me. How does this relate to healthcare? The healthcare industry is driven by two factors: the pharmaceuticals and the insurance. In order for one to take control, the other had to seize control. In order for the pharmaceutical industry to take total control of every person, that meant the insurance industry, owned by the same people, by the way, had to take control of that industry, taking the decisions away from the people and the doctors, and them being the ones to decide what we take for our health. That's exactly what happened. It's happened since that started happening in the 90s, and it systematically has been increasing till literally this last couple of years, to the point now where they don't even have to tell you what you're taking. They just tell you to take. They don't have to put a description in the box. They just, you take it. Oh, we'll disclose in 75 years. Bunch of malarkey. They'll have to explain. And when doctors are stepping up and saying, well, no, I think this would be a better, shut up. If you don't do what the system tells you, you're out. That's like they try to do with me. They've tried it so many times. I laugh about it now. It's like I'm already out. So good luck. As Karl Marx said, control the health of the people and you control the people. Okay? So, but you got to get a hold of the health. It's funny that it was the Rockefellers that started the Department of Health. They also followed it up with the creation of the Department of Education, so they could decide who was educated, how they were educated, and basically who gets to be in charge of our healthcare system. They also got to decide that it would be oil-based, crude oil-based, by the way, black substance that comes from under the ground, that is basically from the waste matter of plants and animals. And let's use that as the delivery system, even though it's toxic. And if we assume that they are Satanists, that a blood-based medicine would be their obvious choice. Why would they want to use a medicine that looks at the spine, or looks at the muscle structures of the balances of the muscles to give size? When I was taught physical therapy back 30 years ago, we had to look at osteopathy. We had to look at naturopathic medicine. We had a homeopathy. We had to look at chiropractic medicine. We had to look at all these things. Chinese medicine. They look at different things, and they showed, well, they all show different signs. Even the thing with the head, with the lumps on the head, rhino, whatever thing. Can't even remember, it's been so long, but different lumps meant different things. So that's how they discover what's attacking the person. They just use the blood in this case. The blood is the basis. They also use chemicals to influence the blood. Spells and potions. Got to use spells and potions. Funny thing is that a lot of the medications, especially the toxic medications, a lot of the chemotherapies, etc., use the same potions, same ingredients that were used in witchcraft. Mercuries, formaldehydes, various other toxic chemicals, arsenic, etc. And they said, well, no, we need that for delivery. Toxic elements that reduce the person's resistance so that they're more susceptible to issues, yet they have to do that. I'll even go down the cancer thing. I'm going to do that on a different show. AKA, I believe that the majority of these issues, especially cancer, is man-made. I saw it when I was working in school, in the 80s, in the late 70s and 80s. I worked for a researcher, and he was testing various viruses that could cause people to get cancer. Various delivery systems to deliver cancer to people. Now, why would he possibly have to be for looking at this stuff, other than trying to figure out what is the best way to deliver it? Yeah, we're going to go there. That's for another show. They need a driving, controlling factor, something that they can turn up or down at a whim, that everyone participates in. That's if they're going to control any system. So if they want to control the system, here they are back there wanting to control our health. Remember what Karl Marx said, control the health, you control the people, okay? So they got to control one of the participants of that system. Well, it has air. Everybody breathes air. It has food. Everybody eats food. Everybody drinks water. But those are hard to control. I mean, they have been controlling at least the water in our cities, and to a degree, poisoning our air a little bit, if you believe the chemtrail, beryllium, aluminum thing. But on the other hand, it's not just, it's hard to control stuff that, people around the world could just drill their own well and boom, there they have water. So that doesn't work. What's the next group? Well, then you get to money. Whoa, wait a minute, we can control money. We just have to buy up all the banks and print our own money. So now if anybody wants to participate in anything, including healthcare, they have to use our money. Take away the gold from people so they don't do, what it used to be In the old days, in the 1800s, it was you go into a bank and use, do you want gold or species? They used to say it was something like paper. Oh, I want gold. So they give them the amount of gold dust in a bag, and that's the amount of gold for if they had a couple $1,000s, whatever, and they would get their little bag of gold, and they would use that or hand nuggets to people. Well, once they removed that, then everybody in the world was reliant on their paper, and this was the exchange, and they controlled it. And if they controlled it, that means they could manipulate it up and down. If they removed from society God's blessing in the form of take away value out of society, then the society would starve eventually. It didn't matter how much they produced. Tell that to the South Africans who've produced more gold, mining, and diamonds than pretty much everyone else in the world combined. Yet they removed 99% out of their country, and the people themselves get very, very little, if any, pay. So they're left with a very poor society to function with, even though the majority of the wealth has been removed. Now, if they stuck it back into society, as you'd see in some cultures where people would mine gold, and then the towns would flourish, like San Francisco in the gold the gold rush of California, because they mine the gold, but then put it right back into society, and they start spending it on other things, and so it gets moved around. So the more gold that entered the society, everybody got wealthy. Everybody around got wealthy, okay, and everybody profited from it. But if they remove the gold and take it out, then nobody profited from it except the one who happened to be the guy who had the gold mine. Yeah, that's what they did. So in witchcraft, they use spells and potions, not spells or potions. And why the and? When I was in college, I went to a Christian university, and they had Mike Warnke came to the school and spoke. Mike Warnke was a high priest in the Satanic Church. He had risen up in the witchcraft all the way up to the very top. And he said this is his words, his belief in Christ stemmed from the fact that one day they had decided, well, they had many times done various sacrifices and sacrificing little children and sacrificing different prostitutes, or they catch elderly people, and sometimes or dogs or different things. They work their way up through the various levels of these secret societies, the Satanic Church. They had these sacrifices they would have to go through. But the ultimate high, the top, was the virgin Christian girl, adult. And they found one, and they identified her. And she was, and I believe, in Florida. And she was at the school, and here he was with his group of men, and they were hiding, casing, watching her, and they identified one day she was crossing campus in a dark area. And here she comes, bebopping along, singing to herself, praying and singing to God as she goes. And they step out to go grab her. And there was as if there was a force field around her. And she literally walked right past them. They couldn't grab her. She didn't even hardly notice that they were there. He said if she would have known the beasts and monsters that were there and the number of people that they had killed between them, we made Jeffrey Dahmer look like a schoolgirl. And he said she would have run from fear, but she didn't even hardly notice this. He said, in that one moment, I realized with all the potions and all the demons and all the praying and all the different things that we did was nothing conjuring compared to the power of Christ. That at that one moment, he realized that he was on the wrong team. And that started his conversion to the good side. And now he talks about it. He paid the price. Yeah, they imprisoned him, they beat him, they did everything else for him before he left, but then he got out. I heard that story and I kind of lived with it until this week. And I realized the significance. It wasn't the fact that she was a virgin, that she was pure. It was the fact that she was communing with God as she was walking. And she was talking to God and singing and praying. And that's why they couldn't get her. Because that communing with God, in essence, brought God and her into a relatively the same place. And they had about as much chance of grabbing her as they had of grabbing God himself, which is no chance. That's what they do when they try to dumb us down. They remove our ability to speak to God, to commune to God. That's what they don't want to have happen. Recently, I spoke with another healthcare provider that I'm thinking about working with here in the future. And he was talking to me about, and him and his wife were talking to me about, a lot of the different things, the way they've taken the Bibles out of the hospitals. They stopped doing that back in the 80s and 90s when all the hospitals were bought by the insurance companies. And they know the insurance companies don't want Bibles, and they took them out. But I was mentioning the fact that recently they have a new rule in healthcare that if you're doing your documentation, you cannot say the word healing any longer, or even reference it in any way, shape, or form with a patient. That the payers, the insurance industry, aka the pharmaceutical industry, they don't want any references to the word healing in any way, shape, or form. And I was told this by my people I was working with. And that's so strange. Why? Because all healing comes from God. And they don't want any reference to the fact that even in word, do you even use that word? Don't even use the word healing, because you're basically talking about God. So they banned it from the documentation of the service providers, not doctors anymore. We'll get into that discussion. What exactly is a doctor? A doctor is someone who gets a paper from the institution that gives it to them and says, you're a doctor because you've passed our tests and you're going to do what they tell them to do. No, the doctors are the real doctors, are the doctors that have gone out and helped people get better, that treated people and look for the right solutions, that are the best solution for the person, and not just the one that the pharmaceutical industry tells them. Every medicine out there, there's an active ingredient that actually does what you were wanting it to do. And it's based on a plant or based on some kind of fruit or some herb. Okay? And so if you can, and they have to disclose what it is. I'm gonna use a bad word here. Ivermectin. And they say, you can't use it. Well, you can, black currant, it's made from black currant. So in the lack of having that particular medicine, all you have to do is go get black currant and you could use it the same way as a antiviral drug. And there's a whole bunch of different things. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there that you can go and just get regular plants and substitute these and not have the side effects, as we've talked about before. Side effects are not maybe effects. They're the expected side effects, like a side dish in a meal. You don't go to the restaurant and order a dish and get a side dish and then say, well, hey, are you going to bring me the potatoes or what? Well, no, it's maybe dish. You don't get that. You just get the steak. We'll give you the maybe dish. Well, no, it's a side dish. Oh, that's right. You're supposed to get it. Okay, you're going to get it. That's what it is. The words tell us exactly what their meaning is. They can't hide inside the order that is prescribed by God for the universe. They have to follow the order. And that's what they do. All right, I'm right at an hour. So I'm going to leave this number 2 here with this Revelation of the Matrix part 2. There's going to be part 3 in a couple of days. But before I do leave this, I have something else for my audience who wants to maybe delve a little deeper into how I got to the point where I am in my spiritual growth and my examination of the spirit. I will go into that. So people who are not interested in it, they can stop the video right now. But I'm going to go into one more little part. Part of my spiritual growth was being brought to my own near-death experience a couple of times in my life. And one time in particular is when I was faced with losing everything, losing my then family, my children, my home, my business, everything that I built, and having no way out, being literally told that you're out. And I was ready to give up. And I called out to God, and God responded. And it was that response which drove me to then decide to put God back into my healthcare treatment and just to see what effect it would have. And I was amazed at the effect. It was that act that precipitated God telling me to write and to dedicate my life to helping others see the godly side of pretty much everything around us. I write about in these books. Along the way, I met an elderly Jewish Masonic Jew named Peter Laue in Pagosa, Colorado. Peter Laue is a man who has dedicated his life and his wife, Rebecca, to Christ. They've opened up their house to give their home to anybody who wishes to come and stay, like the with the prophet Elijah and the woman that opens her upper room. They do the same thing. And the Shumanite woman, they did the same thing. They even have an upper room that they never spent a nickel to build. And yet God, when they decided to build it, God built it for them, literally brought them everything they needed. Beautiful home right on a lake in Pagosa, Colorado. You can look out and see the lake and the mountains in the background. And they let people come and see that place. And this man is an elderly man now, up in his late 80s. And he does not want fame. He does not want any kind of recognition, not even want money. He just speaks what God has spoken to him. He mostly writes down. You can see his website if you go to stretcherbearsforchrist.com. I'll have a link on this video. You can see it. Well, I happened to run into this gentleman when I was very early on in this near-death experience period of my life. And he literally forced me out of the car and had me come in and talk to him. And what started out as a 15-minute conversation turned into a lifetime of now he's basically, I look at him as he's my mentor. He recently sent me a letter, which he gets these letters that are inspired to him from God, and he writes them down and he sends it to a few people. I'm going to read this letter and know this, that just like I have had God speak to me and I've written down what he says in my books, Peter Laue has God speak to him and he writes it down and then he just sends it, posts it on his website or sends it to a few people that God tells him to. And that's how he does it. This particular letter I'm going to read in its entirety. and know that is not Peter Laue speaking, but this is God speaking through him. The Lion of Judah has roared and scored. Cookie cutter Christians everywhere, throw off your denominational labels and be known by the love you have for one another and for me, Jesus. Political party members, throw off your party affiliation labels and be known by the love you have for one another and for me, Jesus. I made the world. I did not make borders. I did not make denominations. I did not make political parties. I did not make cookie cutter believers. I did not make the kingdoms of the world, of this world. You made them. I gave you the freedom to build them or not. You did a very poor job. No denomination, no political party, no kingdom of this world, no president, no pope has anything to brag about. In my eyes, you are all lacking. You all need to repent and start over. These worldly kingdoms you have built have made you prisoners, and you don't even know it. They have isolated you from me and from one another, and you don't even know it. There's only one kingdom. You have made many kingdoms and many kings, many presidents and many popes. There is only one king, one heavenly Father, and I, Jesus, am his only begotten Son, who paid the ultimate price to save your soul and the world. I cannot be your savior. I cannot be anyone's savior unless you choose me to be your savior. I gave you the freedom to choose me or not. If you don't choose me and don't follow in my footsteps, you are lost. You will remain lost, confused, and lonely forever. Party time in this world is short-lived. Hell will never freeze over. It is always eager to meet you and to greet you. You will continue to be swallowed up by it if you don't know me. I say to you, be known by the love you have for one another. I say to you, be known by the love you have for me, the crucified and risen Savior, the soon coming King. There are only two worlds. There's a world of good and there's a world of evil. Everyone, and I say everyone, is given a choice. Which world do you want to live in forever? You cannot live in both. Those who have chosen this world and have not chosen have traded their soul for a pot of porridge. No one, and I say once more, no one is saved by their denominational label. No one is saved by their good deeds. No, he is saved by their own righteousness. Unless you wear my garment of righteousness, you will be wearing filthy rags forever. You will be out of place in my world. My death on the cross provided you with those righteous garments. Has anyone else offered you to provide that heavenly wardrobe? I threw over the money changers' tables in the temple of my God and Father. I exposed the corruption. Do you have that kind of courage and love for me and my Father? The world and the devil crucified me for exposing its corrupt heart. I paid a heavenly price to redeem your soul. If you're not willing to follow in my footsteps, you are lukewarm and I will spit you out. It is by grace of God that these words are placed on the screen of your heart and mind in this late hour. Apprehend them for yourself, and you will live with me in my kingdom. Don't hide these words. Speak them into the dark corners of the world. Choose you this day. Choose today who you will love and serve forever. Be done with the double-mindedness. These words are delivered to you as a gift of love and mercy from the Heavenly Father through one of my chosen vessels. I have others. If you are one of them, pass these words on. If it's fire and love and mercy from heaven, spread it. This is the fire that will burn down all fences that imprison my sheep. Denominations, as you know, them shall be history. No one say again, I am of Peter or of Paul or of some pope or saint. All will say, I am of Jesus. The Lion of tribe of Judah has spoken. I will have a copy of this letter as it is printed here in my blog. It's going to accompany this video. And I'll be writing up a blog that matches what I have said so that I can post it on paulorpeter.com. Again, if you would like to have more information about Peter Laue and this wonderful man that lives in Pagosa Springs, you can check out his stretcherbearersforchrist.com. I'll have the link below. And again, any more, this is Peter Cola of Spiritual Therapies with Peter and Anna Cola. And we will actually be doing a show soon with David Nino Rodriguez and another one with Charlie Ward coming up. But before that happens, I will probably do a part 3 of this Matrix, Revelations of Matrix. Please like and subscribe to our channel and pass this information on to other people. And if you do feel like purchasing one of our books, the Amazon connection is below. But you can also write me directly at posture.is.everything@gmail.com. And if you pay for the book, I will send you a side copy. And I've sent out probably hundreds of these books. Heal Yourself for God's Sake and Quantum Ascension. I also have another book called The First True Therapist, but that one that's one of my first books. I don't hardly promote that book. And I've got some other stuff coming out soon. I've got a couple other books that I will be, one about help treating children with autism. And so if you want more information about that, with the spiritual mind, body, and spiritual treatments of children with autism, helping them free themselves, helping you free from the curse of autism, please write me and I will get you some information how you can be on that mailing list so that will be released soon. Bless you and take care. And I look forward to seeing you again. Love you all. And please, like I said, like and subscribe to our channel. And comments are always accepted. And I love answering emails. Take care. Bye-bye.